So I'm going to be talking about SEO. So for those of you who are interested in SEO, maybe you're already doing some SEO, you are in the right place. And if you have access to the chat, one thing I'm very curious about is if you could type into the chat what you sell and who you are selling it to. So maybe you are selling software like an AI writing tool that you're working on, and maybe you're selling it to college students. Put that in the chat because I'm always very interested and very curious to hear what people are selling and who you are selling to. And I see one in here that you guys make prosthetic hands and your customers are clinicians, users, and payers, and that is awesome. And the HCM software for CHROs in the Northeast, so that is awesome. So thank you for helping me understand what some of you are building and what and who you are selling to. Now, I want to talk just 1 second about search marketing. SEO is search marketing, and what makes search marketing special is the fact that we are selling to people who are online searching for something specific. At the moment that they are doing that search, they're making a buying decision. And the reason why that's so important is because when a customer is online, let's say that they're searching for diapers, and we know that they're searching to buy diapers because they just typed in baby infant diapers into Google. When they do that search, they have intent. And the intent behind that search is to buy something. And if that something is something that you sell, then you want to be out in front of that search. You want Google to surface your products, your pages, your information, so that that customer, in the moment that they're making that buying decision, sees your product, your information, your website. Search marketing is much more compelling, much more effective than interruption marketing like advertising because of that intent. Because you are putting your product or your service out in front of your customer at the moment that they're making a buying decision. That is the intent piece of search. So another quick example, if somebody goes to Google and they type in best CRM software, in that moment, their intention is to research CRM software and probably purchase one. If that's what you sell, if that's what you are marketing, then you want to get out in front. You want to be front and center for that customer in that moment. And the intent is super important. Sometimes when people are searching, their intent is for information. So maybe they are a business owner and they're looking for information about a law that has changed that might affect their taxes. So just because they're a business owner doesn't mean they're in the market for CRM software if that's what you sell. You really want to target the right intent. Now, moving on here, what details matter for SEO? So in order for you to get out in front of that intent, if you've done SEO before, and if you have access to the chat, I'd love for you guys to put in there, if you've done SEO, what have you done for SEO in the past, so that I can understand where you guys are at for SEO at the moment. But if you've done SEO in the past, you know that there are SEO best practices. These are things like technical and content and keyword research that you're doing. These are usually the things, but not always. And you really have to be careful because the details that you're focused on for SEO in order to get that traffic to your website when your customers are making a buying decision for the product or service that you sell. Those SEO best practices that you might have learned, that maybe might have worked for you in the past, they might not work anymore. You might be focusing on the wrong details because the SEO best practices have changed out from under you. Now, it's important to realize that search engines like Google, they are constantly changing, especially with the introduction of AI into the search algorithms. So what this means is these SEO best practices that have worked for you in the past, they might not work in the future. And because the search algorithms and Google are changing on a regular basis, you're going to have to update your strategies. So what we practice at my agency, I mean, we do SEO strategy for startups and many established businesses. We practice what I call evidence-based SEO. And what I'm showing on the screen here is my messy whiteboard description, where I'm basically looking at all of the projects that we have worked on with my team over the last 6 months. And what we do every 6 months is we map them out on the whiteboard, what is working only. Because there's a lot of things that we do for our clients. We try new things constantly because we know Google's algorithm is changing. When something works, it becomes part of our evidence-based search engine optimization strategy. Now, rather than just sticking with SEO best practices, which aren't going to work for you all of the time when Google's algorithm is changing, we prefer this evidence-based SEO strategy. Now, what I'm showing here is our most recent SEO strategy. I'm not going to go into this slide in detail, but in the next slides, I'm really going to map all this out. But what it shows is what's working is authority-based strategies that I'm going to talk about, on-page SEO, like what you should be doing with your content. That is also and what you should be doing with your content and what's working there nowadays. And then also interlinking that's working, SEO hygiene, and search intent, which I've already talked a little bit about, that has to do with targeting the right search intent when you're doing SEO. Now, I'm going to talk a second about SEO metrics. So when you're working on an SEO project, your goal might be, and let me know in the chat if this is true, your goal might be to optimize for rankings. So sell CRM software, you want to be number one for the keyword CRM software. And then the other metric you might be chasing is organic traffic. Like you want to get the most traffic from Google. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting good rankings for keywords that are relevant to the product or service that you buy, that you sell. And there's nothing wrong with getting a lot of traffic from Google. The problem is when you're optimizing only for those metrics, you might not end up with engaged visitors, searchers coming to your website. You might not end up with sales, which is what matters at the end of the day. And when you're chasing better metrics, and the examples I have here are searchers who actually engage with your content and your brand rather than bounce off your website, and searchers who actually buy something, which is important, rather than just visit your website and then go away. When you're looking at those metrics and optimizing for those metrics, obviously those are metrics that are going to move the needle on your business and generate an ROI on your SEO activities. But also where that'll lead you is it'll lead you to optimizing for the right search intents. The search intents where people are looking to buy exactly what you sell, rather than search intents that might just send a lot of traffic to your website. Now, it's dangerous to optimize for only traffic, because when you're optimizing for only traffic, you end up in a situation where the traffic you're generating to your website just doesn't convert. So you could end up spending time and energy for vanity metrics and traffic that just isn't moving the needle. It's not impacting your business as much as it would impact your business if you were targeting search intents where people were actually searching for what you're selling. So super important that you end up targeting the right search intents at the end of the day. So old school SEO for rankings. This is what the type of SEO strategy that I'm referring to when I'm talking about SEO for only rankings and only traffic that can get you in trouble. That is the goal of that type of SEO, is traffic acquisition, versus the new type of SEO that I'm talking about that I really think you guys should be thinking about, which is SEO for customer acquisition. So acquiring customers is a lot more important for any business than just acquiring traffic. And like I said before, that's all about getting in front of the right intent, people who have the intent to buy what you are selling. Now, quickly here about me, I mentioned a little bit about who I am and what I do. My background is in technology and also in marketing. I've worked my entire career at the intersection of technology and marketing. I studied AI in grad school, and that's how I got into SEO, because everybody was asking me to explain how Google's algorithm works and to help them optimize their websites for organic traffic and for Google. Back when I was working as an engineer and a technologist, I built a supercomputer for the NSA. That is a story best told over a beer. So we'll leave that for another time. And I've been working for the last 15 years on digital marketing strategy. I founded my current agency. We are Fire and Spark. We only do SEO strategy. So that is our focus. I'm happy to talk to people who might be interested in, learning a little bit more, get my thoughts on SEO strategy for your business, for your startup. I'm happy to have those conversations. Please reach out to me after this presentation. And we've worked with a bunch of clients, some of which you may have heard of. Now, I'm going to dig a little bit more into search intent. I've already mentioned it several times, and the reason why I mentioned it several times is because it is so important. And let me give you an example here. I'm going to tell a quick story. Now, I have a daughter. She happens to be 11 years old now. During the pandemic, when the pandemic started in 2020, the pandemic started for us around March, and her birthday is in May. For her birthday, she was super excited about these American Girl dolls. What I'm showing you here is a video of these dolls. These videos are a little bit creepy. My daughter found them online. This is how she got excited about American Girl dolls. For her birthday in May, after the pandemic started, she wanted to go to the American Girl doll store in Boston. Now, that was a problem because the store was closed because of the pandemic. What we ended up doing was trying to figure out, is there another store she could go to? We found out that there was another store that was open, but it was a used American Girl doll store. When the store started opening up again later that year, we had found that the American Girl doll store in Boston had closed permanently, which was a problem for my daughter because she wanted to go. So we ended up taking a road trip down to New York to the American Girl Place store in New York City, which was fun for us. Now I live up in Boston. So when I discovered this store in New York that we made a road trip to go see, we found that my daughter could make an appointment to have her doll's hairstyled, which kind of really blew my mind. Like I didn't think anybody would want to do that, but we did. So you guys are going to wonder, why is Dale telling this story about dolls when I came here to learn something about SEO? But the reason why is because if you think about it, throughout this whole story, trying to figure out where we could buy an American Girl doll for my daughter's birthday, how to get down to New York, which American Girl stores were open, and then also how to make a reservation to have the doll's hairstyled at the New York store, we went to Google. And when we went to Google, we typed in American Girl. And when we typed in American Girl many times during this multi-month saga to figure out how we were going to buy an American Girl doll, each time we typed American Girl into Google, our intent was actually different. In the beginning, our intent was to find the Boston American Girl store. Then our intent was to find the used American Girl doll store that somebody had told my daughter about. Then when the store closed in Boston, we were trying to figure out, well, is there another store? And we were looking for the one in New York. Then we were typing in American Girl with the intent to make a reservation to have the doll's hairstyled. All of these different intents behind the same search query, which is American Girl. The reason why this is important to you as entrepreneurs and business owners and marketers is because when you are for SEO and even paid search marketing on the paid side, you need to understand that there are multiple intents behind those keywords. And if you're getting traffic to your website for the wrong intent, you are basically going to end up with traffic that bounces off your site. Google will notice, and Google will reduce your rankings and the amount of traffic that you're getting. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're targeting the right intent. For American Girl, if I had a used American Girl doll store in Boston, it would be better for me to rank for a keyword like American Girl used in Boston. That would be a much better keyword for me to optimize for, because the traffic that I would get from that keyword would be targeted in terms of intent. And when those people come to my website, they will stay. They would engage with my content. They would engage with the products, the used dolls that I was selling. Google would see that engagement, when what that means is people aren't bouncing on the website, and I would get better rankings in the future, more traffic in the future for the right intents, and I would sell more and get better ROI from the effort that I'm putting into my SEO. So targeting the right intents is super important. And when you're creating content for SEO, it's important that you're optimizing that content, your calls to action, the types of products, the types of services that you're selling on your pages, and the whatever those offers are, because you might be offering something downloadable or something like that. It's important that you're optimizing for the intent that you want to go after. And super important. Now I'm going to give another example when it comes to intent. Now, I've done a bunch of work for a number of businesses that sell 3D printers. Those are those machines that might sit on your desktop that will print in plastic or metal, any object that you ask them to print. Now, some of these manufacturers came to me, one in particular, and they asked me if I could help them to rank for the keyword 3D printing. And that makes a lot of sense if you sell a 3D printer, that you might want to rank for the keyword 3D printing. But that is actually a trap for you if you sell a 3D printer. And the reason why that keyword is a trap is because if you go to Google and type in 3D printing, you can see that Google is showing not machines that you can buy. Google is showing services that will 3D print an object for you and then deliver it to you or mail it to you. What I'm showing here on this slide is that when I typed in 3D printing into Google, I got a map of local services, not 3D printing machines that I could buy. What that means is Google knows the intent behind this search, 3D printing, is not to buy a machine that can sit on your desktop. The real intent behind this search when people type it in is to find a local service that will do the printing for you. So what that means, if you are a company like my client that sells 3D printers to customers, then you would be much better off going after a keyword like 3D printer. Very subtle difference. But when I type 3D printer into Google, what I see is machines that I could buy, just like the machines that my clients sold. And because of that, that tells me that the intent behind the 3D printer keyword is actually very different than the intent behind the 3D printing keyword. The intent behind 3D printer is to buy a machine that'll sit on my desk and print objects. And because my client sold machines, the 3D printer keyword was a much, much better keyword for them to be targeting, because they were targeting the right intent when they were targeting the 3D printer keyword. So super important that when you're doing SEO, you figure out upfront the intents that you want to go after. These are the intents that align with the products or services that you sell, and also the intents that align with the offers that you have on your website. Maybe you have an offer which might be a downloadable price list. And this is something where that is gated. Maybe hypothetically, you have a price list that's gated on your website. And this could be the pricing for your product or your service. And you would want to go after intents where people are looking for pricing for that particular call to action. But of course, you could have many, many other offers and content on your website that could go after different intents, as long as they are intents that lead to a sale or lead to the right conversations that you are trying to have for your business. So always important that you're targeting the right intents. Now what I'm going to talk about is planning for conversion. Now, conversion matters. When you're doing SEO, you want to make sure, like I've said before, you're not only optimizing for rankings and traffic. That could definitely lead you astray if the traffic you're getting doesn't convert. So you want to research the search intents you should be going after up front, like I've already talked about. But you also want to be planning for conversion. And planning for conversion is all about knowing your audience. What is your audience looking for? If you are selling to teachers, let's say, or maybe not just teachers, maybe you're selling to administrators at school districts. Now, there's a huge difference between selling directly to teachers and selling to administrators at school districts. If you were to decide that you were selling to teachers, teachers have different motivations. Their motivations are to plan their lessons, to communicate with their students, to make sure their students are learning, to help their students succeed. And then administrators at school districts have completely, not completely different, but different motivation, where they are trying to please their superintendent. They're trying to, they're a little more political in terms of what they can and can't do. They care more about the budget that they have to work with when it comes to acquiring new technology for their school district. So the audience that you're going after matters. And the more you know about your audience, the better. And what I would say, especially if you have a B2B sale, like you might be listening to this presentation today and selling to businesses. And when you're selling to businesses, your audience is much smaller than when you're selling to the general public. And that would be selling to consumers. We would call that a B2C sale. And when you're selling to businesses, the search volume is smaller. And because of that, keyword research is harder. Keyword research tools will be less useful to you. So knowing your audience is even more important with a B2B sale. And the way you get to know your audience is by talking to your customers full stop. If you're at a larger organization and you don't have the opportunity to talk to your customers, you can talk to salespeople instead. That works too. If you're at a startup, you might still be working on your product. You might be in the early stages of your business. You might still be working to achieve product market fit. But the more you can talk to your customers, the more you'll get to know them, the more you'll know what's critical when it comes to intent targeting for SEO. What you need to know for SEO, and this is by far the most important thing, so I might repeat it, is you need to know the questions that your customers ask when they are making a purchase decision for the product or service that you sell. And that's so important that I'm going to go into a little bit of detail here. Now, if you were selling to teachers and the type of product you were selling, let's say it is a survey tool that that teachers would use to give to their students and understand how well their students are picking up the material, or it might be a quiz tool to help teachers to implement weekly quizzes that they would give to their classes. If you are selling to teachers, you would need to talk to teachers and understand, well, when you're looking for a quiz tool for your students, what questions would you ask? And the teachers might ask things very specifically like, how much does it cost? Or how hard is it for my students to use? Do I send my students a link or could they be on paper? Does it grade the quizzes automatically or not? So when you're talking to teachers, you're going to get a number of surprising questions. And the more you learn about the questions your customers ask when they're making a purchase decision for your product or service, the more you're going to know about the search intents that you should go after. And that information is going to help you to develop content. And I'm going to talk more about content, but you cannot get started with content until you have conversations with your target customers and you understand the questions that they're asking. Now, what I'm talking about at the moment is conversion for SEO. And conversion optimization is all about aligning the search intent. That might be teachers searching for a software tool to implement quizzes for their students, or it might be a 3D printing machine manufacturer who is targeting customers who with the intent to buy a desktop machine to do 3D printing. But we have to make sure that we align that intent that we're going after with the call to action. This is the offer on your website. Are you offering them the opportunity to talk to a salesperson? Or are you offering them the opportunity to demo your software? Are you offering them the opportunity to click the buy button on an e-commerce site? Are you offering them the opportunity to give you their phone number and email address in exchange for pricing for your product? There are thousands and thousands of different offers, creative offers that you can come up with. But the important thing is that when you're creating these creative offers, they are perfectly aligned with the search intent. So if somebody's searching for uh, classroom quiz software pricing, they are searching for something very specific. And you would align your call to action and the offer on the page that they land on by, for example, creating an offer that might be download our transparent pricing PDF. That would be very aligned with the intent behind the search that you're going after. And when you're doing SEO, you would have many pages on your website and many pieces of content. Each of them would be going after an intent that's a little bit different. Like it might be an intent to find the price for a quiz tool, or it might be the intent might be to understand how students learn better when you're using a quiz tool, or it might be an intent to understand more about how quiz tools can dynamically change the questions that they ask each individual student based on how well that particular student is learning. Those are three different intents, and you would want to have a call to action that is perfectly aligned with each of those three intents in order to get that customer to convert. Now, in the early stages of a startup, you really are just you're trying to find product market fit. You're trying to get customers on the phone so you can figure out what changes to make to your product. But you're also trying to get customers on the phone so that you can figure out how to create calls to action that would be very compelling to the customers that you're going after. And aligning those calls to action with the intents that you're going after is how you're going to do that. Now, I'm going to give an example here. This is a financial services institution that I've worked with. And you could imagine that they decide that they want to go after a keyword. In this case, the keyword is donor advised fund for charitable giving. Now, for those of you who don't know, a donor advised fund is when you've got a lot of money that you want to give away to charity, but you don't know which charity you're going to give it to, but you want the tax break right now. So the way you get the tax break right now is you give the money, but you don't give it to the charity. You just put it in a fund, in an account, where you're saying, I'm going to give this money to a charity. I'm not going to give it away right now, but I want the tax break right now. So you save money on your taxes. That's what it's all about. Now, if you were a financial institution optimizing for this keyword, donor advised fund for charitable giving, the intent that you want to go after would be for somebody who wants to open an account with a financial institution. Now, people typing that keyword are going to have different intents, just like the example that I gave you when I typed in American Girl, when I was trying to find American Girl dolls in the American Girl store for my daughter. Now, for donor advised fund for charitable giving, for that keyword, the intent might be to open an account, but the intent also might be to do research. Or maybe somebody searching already has one of these accounts. So it's too late for my client to get them to open an account. And the reason why that person is searching is because they're trying to figure out how to realize the tax benefits that they were promised when they had initially opened the account. That's a very different intent. And that's not an intent that my client wants to go after, because my client wants people that are opening an account and want to open an account today. So when you decide in this example that, or when my client decided in this example that they wanted to target this intent to open an account with a financial institution, people looking to open an account with a financial institution, the next thing they needed to do was to figure out, well, how am I going to convert these people when they land on my website? So we started thinking about different messaging that would convert the intent we were going after. So that messaging might be something like, learn how to amplify your charitable impact, or download our account fee schedule, or calculate your tax savings. And then offers that we might offer people to get them to convert. And in this case, convert means they give us their phone number and email address so we can contact them. We might say, talk to an advisor. Maybe that's a good offer. Or it might be download our fee schedule PDF. These are just 5 things that we brainstormed. But the whole point here is we're trying to find calls to action, offers that we can put on the content. And keep in mind, we haven't talked about what that content might look like. But when we do create that content, these are the offers that we will put on that content so that we can convert people who have the right search intent. Now, if somebody comes to this content that we haven't created yet and they have the wrong search intent, maybe we convert them, maybe we don't, but that's okay. We don't really want them. We want people who have the search intent that we're targeting, which is to open an account. So the offers and the messaging for our calls to action are going to be perfectly aligned with that search intent that we care about, because we don't want to convert the wrong people. We want to convert the right people. We don't want traffic for the wrong people to our website. We want traffic for the right people, the people who want to convert, the people we want to talk to. And we don't want to rank for keywords that are going to bring us the wrong traffic. We want to rank for keywords that are laser focused on the intent that we care about. And those tend to be longer keywords. In this case, we're going after a long keyword, which is which is donor advised fund for charitable giving. If we were only going after a keyword like tax saving, that's too generic. There's so many search intents that people have when they type in that intent that we would get a lot of traffic if we ranked number one for that keyword, but the vast majority of it wouldn't convert for us. So we would be wasting a good amount of our effort. So we want to be laser focused in the intents that we go after. Now, because it's so important to understand your customers and get to know them in order to choose the right search intents, and in order to craft the right calls to action for those search intents, and to create the right content to persuade them when they land on your website. The more you know about your customers, the better. When you're talking to your customers, and yes, I insist that you talk to your customers, don't hide behind analytics tools. Don't hide behind keyword research tools. That is the wrong way to do SEO in 2023, because SEO is so competitive right now. You want to get to know their pain points. You want to get to know the questions they ask when they're making a purchase decision for the type of product that you buy. I'm sorry, for the type of product or service that you sell, and their preferences and their worldviews. The worldviews are, what do they think all right now about the type of product or service that you sell? For example, I run an SEO agency, so I sell SEO for a living. If somebody comes to me, I need to understand, like, how do they feel about SEO? Do they think SEO is all about technical changes to your website? Do they think SEO is all about blogging? And I have to understand that, so I can, before I tell them what I know works for SEO nowadays, I have to talk to what they're already doing. So if you don't understand your customers' current worldviews, it's going to be hard for you to create content that persuades them and ranks in Google. And the hangouts are, where are your customers hanging out online? And that could be forums or chats or Slack groups or blogs that have comments. That's really important, because you'll learn more about your customers if you know where they hang out online, because you could go to those places and see what questions they're asking in those online forums. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example. I did some work for a startup in Boston. It was called Edmit. What Edmit does is they help students to apply for college. And the way they help students apply to college is by telling students what they can expect to pay at each individual school. Every student has their own financial situation that's going to affect how much they're going to pay. But also, every school that they could possibly apply to will have its own policies towards financial services. Some schools give away more money than others. We all know that. So Edmit will help you based on your personal situation, and every school out there, and what they typically do for financial aid. Edmit will help you figure out what you would pay at each individual school. Now, when we were getting started with this startup for their SEO campaign, we wanted to understand how students and parents make their decision around what schools they're going to apply to. So what we did was we had to go online and figure out, where do parents and students hang out online, so that we can go to those places and understand the questions that parents or students are asking when they're making a decision about what schools to apply to. Now, some of you may be familiar with this website, College Confidential. Now, we found there were a lot of forums on College Confidential, and if you go there, there are students who are asking about, can I get into this particular school? And there are parents who are asking, how do I do the right thing? How do I pay for my parents' college? Lots and lots of good questions. For this project we were working on for SEO, we spent a lot of time understanding what those questions are. And because we understood those questions by looking at this forum, it made it a lot easier for us to figure out what search intents are we going to go after, what calls to action and messaging and offers are we going to use to get people to convert when they come to our website. What type of content are we going to create? And then how are we going to write that content? Now, as an example of a call to action, one of them we had was find out how much you're going to pay for the colleges on your list. And we were able to figure out that this messaging was worth testing based on all of the questions we saw about students on this particular forum, and then also the research we did talking to students and talking to parents. This is what they cared about. Now, there were many other messages and concerns and questions that they were asking, and those led to calls to action on other pages on the website that were targeting different search intents. Now, old school SEO, if you're somebody who has done SEO in the past, the way you might have learned to do it is what I call SEO for rankings. And SEO for rankings is when you're doing technical SEO up front, you're optimizing pages on your website, then you're creating content. That content's usually blog articles. Blog articles is the wrong type of content to create nowadays for SEO. Then you build authority on your websites with link building, and then after, and this is the old way of doing it, after you created some traffic to your website, you worry about how am I going to convert that traffic so I can get them on the phone or get them to buy something on my website. The reason why that's the wrong way to do SEO today is because if you generate traffic and it's the wrong traffic, then it's going to be hard or nearly impossible for you to convert that traffic because it's the wrong traffic. When I gave you guys the example of the 3D printing manufacturer, they were selling machines. They weren't doing the printing for their customers as a service. So if they were going after the 3D printing keyword and they were getting people to come to their website that were looking for a service, none of those people would convert because those people weren't looking to buy a machine. They were looking for a service that was going to do the 3D printing for them. That's why I recommend what I call SEO for revenue, which is when you're thinking about conversion upfront in the way that we've discussed on the presentation today. Then you're thinking about how can I build authority, which is aligning your brand with authoritative individuals and organizations in your space, then also doing engagement optimization, and then creating the right type of content, which I'm going to talk about next. And then you move on to like optimizing your site so that you're getting better rankings and more of the right traffic. Because remember, when we're thinking about conversion up front, we're doing a lot of thinking about what questions our customers are asking. We're talking to our customers, and we're answering those questions with our content online. Super important, especially if you're in a B2B space where keyword research is much, much harder. Now, I'm just taking a quick break here. You use your phone, take pictures, or send me an email. I'm Dale at fireandspark.com. If you want to get these slides, I still have more slides here to come about content, but if you want to get these slides, send me an email or just grab the slides at this QR code. I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds here to grab the slide or write down my email address so you can email me at dale@fireandspark.com, all spelled out, and I'll send you the slides for today's presentation. But now I'm going to talk about content. Now, everything I've talked about up until this point was how you should be talking to your customers, choosing the right search intent, and then also thinking about, well, how am I going to convert these people when they land on my website, doing all that work up front. Then what you're going to do is create content on your website. The old school way to do it was blog articles. That is not the best way to do it. I'm going to show you the best way to do it. Now, when we're thinking about content strategy, I'm going to give you guys 3 examples of SEO projects that I've worked on that'll illustrate what type of content you should create. Now, I worked for a law firm back in the day. This was many years ago, maybe like 8 years ago. Now, the lawyer I was working for was a scary dude. This is not him in the picture because I don't, want to get in trouble with my lawyer friends. But he was a scary dude who looked just like one of these dudes right here. You don't want to cross them. He was a former prosecutor in the city of Boston. Now, what I did for him was we created a lot of blog articles. We wrote like 35 blog articles on his website. We were hoping to get organic traffic from Google that would convert and really move the needle on his law practice. But what were the results? I am about to show you. The results were a big fail. And the reason why is because the blog articles that we created, they didn't rank for the keywords we were going after. We were going after keywords like domestic abuse lawyer or DUI attorney. So maybe I wasn't doing my best work. But because we were only doing blogging and we were going after a very competitive space, and I'll give you guys a hint, almost everything you want to go after nowadays when you're doing SEO is going to be competitive. Because we were doing blogging, and it just wasn't the right way to generate traffic that was actually going to convert. So this project was a big fail. Then if you fast forward a few years, I worked for a mortgage company. Now for this mortgage company, we also did blogging, but we did some other things. We created some pages that were more templated, that had mortgage calculators on them. And then we also wrote 3 times a day, believe it or not, about mortgage rates, because people who are looking to buy a home really care about what are today's mortgage rates. And I'm going to tell you guys like what the results were of this campaign. The results were mixed. Now the articles again did not rank very well, so those were didn't work as well. But the calculators were able to rank, and they converted, so we did well with the calculators. Now there's a ton of mortgage calculators out there. We created mortgage calculators that were much more specific than your normal mortgage calculator. Like we had one that was like a second home mortgage calculator, and another one that was a vacation home mortgage calculator, and another one was a beach house mortgage calculator. You can see where I was going with this. They were very specific, and they were not blog articles. And then the mortgage rates content also converted well. Now I'm going to show you a third campaign. Now this was a nursing website. There weren't not any blog articles that we did here. Instead, what it was a directory of nursing programs in the US. If you went to Google and you typed in RN program in Boston, or RN BSN program, which is the type of college degree you're looking for if you're already a nurse, there are tons of these nursing programs, and there's tons of states and cities where these schools are. So there were a ton of keywords that we were going after. Now, no blog articles were involved. Instead, this was a directory. There were pages on the website, like one page for each individual school and each individual program at all these schools. So there were thousands of those programs and thousands of those pages. But there were also category pages, like a page, like I said before, RN programs in Boston, that had a listing of programs on them. So the result of this project, where we didn't do any blogging whatsoever, was a big success. We got traffic, we got conversions. We didn't really have to write any content at all. We just had to build the directory and do some research. So this did really well, and it helped me understand that there are alternative SEO content recipes I'm about to talk about that do better than blog articles. And the reason why these alternative content recipes I'm about to talk about do better than blog articles is because not only do they rank and send traffic to your website, but they attract natural backlinks and engagement, which drives your authority and trust with Google. And they convert the visitors that land on your website. That's really important. You can't afford to generate traffic that doesn't convert. That's why blog articles are not the best way to do it. Blog articles are top of funnel informational content that might answer questions your customers are asking, but if those aren't purchase intent questions, you can get yourself in trouble. Now I'll go into this. Now, buying guides could work if you sell curtains or fabric, just to give you an example. Niche buying guides are very specific buying guides, like the one I'm showing here, blackout curtains buying guides. These buying guides are so specific that you'll end up with a lot of them that you could write. And if you can write a lot of them, you'll get traffic because they're specific. Google's not going to have a lot of other pages that are this specific that are buying guides, so it'll be easier for you to rank. And when people land on your website, they're more likely to convert because the information is exactly what they're looking for. It's not a curtains buying guide, it's a blackout curtains buying guide. And because they typed in blackout curtains into Google, this is exactly what they were looking for. So it's going to convert a lot better. you're going to end up with a lot more traffic and customers at the end of the day, because you're going to create a bunch of these, not just one page. I mean, there's a lot of these that you can create. Then there's also Q&A content. This is when you're targeting purchase intent questions. Now, let me give you an example. If you were selling ski boots and you were answering the question on your website, how do I clean my ski boots? That is not a purchase intent question, because somebody who's asking about how to purchase their ski boots, they probably already own ski boots. Instead, you would want to go after somebody who's typing in, how do I size my ski boots? Because it's much more likely that they're in the market for ski boots. They're looking to buy ski boots. Now, what you would do with Q&A content is you would find a lot of those purchase intent questions by talking to your customers. You can also use some keyword research or SEO tools like SEMrush. And you would answer those questions with 1 or 2 paragraph answers, and you put them on your website. You can put them on your website on, at the bottom of pages you already have, or create a new FAQ on your website that answers purchase intent questions. And that's how we could target your customers when they're making a buying decision with Q&A content. Now, another type of content would be niche service pages. The example that I'm showing here is a company that does waste disposal. They're called Waste Management. They don't just have like a garbage pickup page. They have a lot of pages on their website. They have one specifically for hospital waste disposal. They could take that further, and they could create a page that's for hospital waste disposal in Boston, or hospital waste disposal in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They could really get specific with these pages, and getting that specific will help you with SEO, like I said before, because you won't have a lot of competition for those specific pages. And when people land on those pages, they're going to find exactly what they're looking for. So they're much, much more likely to convert, and sometimes 10 times more likely to convert than if you just had a waste disposal page using this example. Then there's comparison content. Now, the example I'm showing you here is an example from an insurance comparison website that I advised in Boston when they were getting started. This particular website has 1,000 pages on their website that are templated, that basically compare every insurance company to every other insurance company. What that allows them to do is to basically generate all this content that shows up in Google search results pages when people are researching a specific insurance company. Now, this content is bottom of the funnel content, which means people click on it and go to these pages when they're ready to make a buying decision, not when they're just kind of in the beginning stages of their research to find an insurance company. Now, because of that, they are much more likely to convert. And the startup that I worked with that generated these pages, they created a lot of them based on one template they created. So comparison content does much, much better than blog articles. It's more compelling. It's more likely to get clicks. It generates more engagement that Google's going to see, so that your rankings and your traffic do better, and it converts better. This is what we want when we're trying to drive actual customers, not just rankings. And then you might have the opportunity to build a listing directory. It really depends on what your business is trying to achieve and what type of data you have. This is an example. I worked with a startup that was building a directory of certification programs online. So these were certification programs like a data science certification or a Python programming certification. And because that's what they were doing, they had the opportunity to build a database and a directory of those programs. Now, if you think about it, this directory is going to have listing pages, which would be one page for every certification program. But, and this is really important, this directory is also going to have category pages. So that would be pages like data science programs, or another page that might be something like JavaScript programs in Boston. Now, the fact that you're able to generate those category and subcategory pages because you built a directory, those pages will rank and generate some of the traffic that will help you. So that is important too. Then there are niche collections. Niche collections could be something like the example I'm showing here. I did a project for a tutoring company, and the tutoring company had a lot of tutors, and they were able to build a collection, individual pages that were collections of some of their tutors. And one example would be something like MCAT tutors in Boston. So these are tutors in the city of Boston that can help students to study for the MCAT exam. Now, there are a lot of different exams and different subjects like math or algebra that tutors can help you with. And then there are a lot of locations, not just Boston, but neighborhoods in Boston. And when you put that together, you can create a lot of these niche collections on your site that are going to rank well and convert because they are driving traffic for exactly what people are looking for. And then there are also niche calculators. I already talked about the mortgage calculator example, how when you can create one of these calculators that might be relevant to whatever it is you sell. Maybe it's a savings calculator that because your software you're building helps businesses save money. I don't know. But you can create a lot of pages on your website that use one calculator. And remember the mortgage example I gave you, where we created a page like a vacation home mortgage calculator page, but also a second home mortgage calculator page. I'm going after specific searches that people were typing into Google. Now, when you're doing SEO, just talk quickly about the optimizations that matter. If you have showstopper tech issues, these are technical issues with your website that would be preventing Google from seeing your traffic. Definitely want to fix those. You want to make sure that Google is seeing your content on your website. You can create a Search Console account, which is a free account that Google will give you. That'll help you understand if you have an issue with Google seeing your content. If you don't, then you want to make sure that you're optimizing metadata, specifically the title tag. Put your keywords in the title tag. You want to make sure that your content is useful and helpful. You'll know that because it'll answer the questions that you were able to find during your research when you were talking to your customers. Use the keywords that you are targeting in the content that you're creating. And that goes double with the types of content that I showed you guys here. Put the keywords in your H1s and H2s. Internal linking is when pages on your website link to other pages on your website. So doing that is a good thing. It helps visitors to your website to find the information, the products, the services that they're looking for on your website. And it also helps Google to find those pages. So that's worth doing. And then featured snippets. Featured snippets are when Google gives people the answer to the question that they're asking with a link to your website. Optimizing for those by answering specific questions in your content and then publishing Q&A content like questions and answers to those questions. That helps a lot. So that's all I've got today for SEO. I appreciate you guys giving me some attention here. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A that you guys can click on in the interface today. I also have an SEO for revenue guide. You can text SEO to this number or email me directly, dale@ironspark.com, or use the QR code on the screen here to get this guide. It has more specific information about the concepts and topics that I talked about today, so this should be helpful to you. We do have a couple minutes here for one or two quick questions. If anybody does have a question, I'm happy to answer.